Hello, welcome everybody. Happy Tuesday. It's great to have you back with us for another one of our crowdcasts. And this one, I'm really excited. It's another episode in our series that we're calling Maker Stories. So if those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Maria Marquis here at Coda. I just celebrate our makers and try and make it so that learning Coda is as easy as possible by not only learning from us here at Coda, but also learning from each other and really celebrating what's happening in our community. Now, lucky for all of you, I'm joined by one of our awesome makers, Daniel. He and I were nerding out on the no code movement while we were waiting to go live, and also trying to get our golden retrievers to come on screen and talk to each other, but they were both feeling rather shy. But Daniel, besides being a golden retriever dad, do you want to just introduce yourself to the group, tell them a little bit about you and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Daniel van der Merwe. I'm from South Africa. And yeah, I'm just a tinkerer and a maker at heart. I love taking things apart, and sometimes I put them back together again. I've got a background in programming, mostly CMS developments for enterprise. So I've built many large enterprise CMS solutions over the last 11 years. I am slightly obsessed with knowledge management and the quantified self movement, and I read app update notes and API documentation for fun. That's pretty much.
Nice. And you want to tell us a little bit about your podcast and your business as well?
Yeah. So Relatively Productive is it's called a passion project that I have with Jacob Pretorius. He should be in chat. Say hi, Jacob.
Hi, Jacob.
Yeah, so we just talk about whatever we feel like. It's more of it's like a accountability platform for us.
Nice.
We're good friends, and since he moved over to the UK, it's been nice for us to just keep in touch and just touch base, and we use that, like I said, accountability.
Nice.
So we try to stick to the things that we say on the podcast. Always easy.
It's published. You have to do it.
Yeah, and then I also run a software development company with my partner Gareth Kropman.
Hi, Gareth.
Hi, Gareth. Say hi. Yeah, and that's pretty much
cool.
That's it.
Awesome. So just so everybody knows how to get in touch with us today, we're going to be looking at actually a couple different docs that Daniel has made because he's super awesome that way. But if you've got questions today, we really want to know about it, either for me or for Daniel about things he's built, how he's built it, or any Coda related questions. Totally fine to ask me about it. The way that you'll do that is over on the right, we've got a chat field. You can go ahead and put whatever's on your mind there. Gareth is already being super social, which is fantastic, as are Phil. So feel free to post any commentary you have there as we go through. If you have a question, one of the best ways to make sure that it doesn't get lost is just to click on the Ask a Question button along the bottom of the screen below our faces. That way you can just log what's on your mind, and you can also see what other people are posting and upvote or downvote questions if you have the same one. So with that being said, let's dive into your maker story here, Daniel. So let's start with the past. You have this podcast, you have your business, and what were some of the things that you were doing to manage your life and your business and your podcast before Coda? What did that look like?
Oh, it was a hot mess. Yeah, so before Coda, I mean, mostly Google Docs, Google Sheets. That was pretty much it.
Sure.
And then I came across Coda in 2017 when it was in beta. That was pretty much the first time I started using Coda. And then I used it on and off. And then really doubled down with the 2019 Product Hunt Maker Festival, the No Code Festival. Then I got really into Coda. But yeah, so basically that's when Coda became kind of a beating heart for a lot of things in my life. It's just like the central point, because I always tell people when they want to know what Coda is, I say it's like Google Docs and Google Sheets had a baby.
Oh, that's so cute too.
but better. So that's kind of what I really like. I like that I could be writing and then in there just add a table, add some rows, and then use that anywhere else. So yeah, so in the past it was pretty much just Google Docs and Google Sheets.
Yeah.
Everything ran on that.
Totally. And what was when you started to pick up Coda to really become that beating heart, become that managing system, what was the primary problem that you were trying to solve with your situation?
Right. Yeah. So we needed a place to manage this stuff, and we were using Google Docs and Google Sheets, like I said, to try and keep show notes in Docs, but it gets all scattered and
Sure.
it's not very well organized, and you can't reference something from the one doc to the other doc
Right.
easily in a current way. So you end up having spreadsheets to manage your Google Docs.
Oh, Lord.
So yeah, we started building out this doc kind of to be that central point, to have everything
Yeah.
together, somewhere where we can manage our show prep, where we can do show notes, keep track of topic ideas, and just use as like a general knowledge base. That was kind of
Yeah.
what the problem that we wanted to solve. Yeah.
I love that. Awesome. Well, let's actually take a look at the doc. That's a really good segue. Can you talk us
Cool.
through kind of how it's organized?
Yeah.
Show us your
So
podcast brain.
yes. So this is a relatively productive podcast planner. The first welcome page is just like an overview to get you started on all of the areas. You can go through here. These are all tweetable links. So if you click these, they'll actually bring up a tweet intent that
Cool.
you can forward the tweet. More on that later. Then we've just got a little dashboard. It just shows time since last. Okay, this doc obviously is not our live doc, so
Yes, this is just the templated version.
The templated version. So right now on the live one, we published episode 6 days ago, and it is 30 days on average between episodes for us. So that's just a nice overview. Calendar is just a calendar overview. Then the episode overview, which just lists all of the episode. We host our podcast on SoundCloud. So
cool! You've got it embedded there. That's awesome.
SoundCloud embed. Then there's the episode planning section. This is where you come to add a new episode. So you'll see over here, it has some, obviously if you're using this doc, you can take all of this out. This is just explanation of how this works. So you set up when you plan to start recording the next episode, and then you can click, but the process actually outlines here. What you need to do is you just go add a page, because we actually keep our, I'll just do one over here now.
Yeah, what's our episode going to be about, Daniel?
Dogs.
I was going to say, it's got to be about the dogs and what we've learned from our golden retrievers and how they stay productive between their many naps and playing.
For sure. So then after you've done that, you can come and click start planning episode. Then the only thing you need to really do here, because most of this data you won't have yet, is just go Control K, just reference episode 8, which will then add that to episodes table.
Cool.
And then we have a little template section. So then you go new episode, copy the new episode content, paste that in there. And that's pretty much how you create a new episode template.
I love that.
Really straightforward. We started out doing it in cells, but back then we didn't have the nice cell editor.
Oh, right. Big Cell didn't exist yet. Yeah.
It didn't exist. So there is some room for improvement in the doc, where the show notes could actually live inside of inside of a cell inside of the table.
Yeah.
Then this part is just like just a little hack over here. Not a hack, but a pro tip. You mention the episode 8. Sorry, if I can get it. Mention the episode 8 row now. Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Because you want the row, not the section.
Exactly.
And then you'll have
things there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have like a quick view edits of
Cool.
the row in the table up here, which is pretty nifty. And when you update the name of the episode later, which you don't know at the time of recording, obviously, then that will update over there. So this
Yeah.
is docs.
Yeah.
And it'll update over there. So that's pretty nifty.
I like how you have the double connections there, right? That you're bringing in you're bringing the table information into the doc part, and then you're bringing the doc part into the table. So you're kind of letting, you're having that connection there, so that no matter where you're working, you get the full picture. Which I really love how you've made that pattern something really work for you.
We were doing bi-directional links before it was cool.
You got to put that on a T-shirt. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think for those of you tuning in, that's a really good pattern to keep in mind, right? If you are having long form areas and then also table areas, having that connection of the bi-directional link, and it's cool now, but it's still cool, even though you weren't part of the early like indie bi-directional link group. But I think that pattern is really helpful for a lot of different docs. Even if you're not planning a podcast, it's a really helpful tip. Yeah, great. Thanks, Daniel.
And something that people might not realize is that just these section called pages now, these page links, they are also bi-directional links.
Right.
Like if you update the name of that page, it'll update it everywhere in your doc that you reference that page. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're working with Coda. It's very powerful, that in its own.
Love that.
Yeah, and then we just have our little personal sections where we can do pre-record and post-record checklist. I don't think Jacob's a minimalist, so
Jacob is just you're pulling his weight. Yeah, but again, I like that what you've done here, even though we're being kind of silly about it, that you and Jacob can both have like your spaces. You can work the way you want to, but it's still in the same spot. So that even though Jacob's a minimalist and you have really nice structured checklists, like you can both still see like how are we doing, which I think is great. Yeah, love that.
Yeah. And now the sections is actually great. That's something that's not in here, but we add sections and stuff. So like spoilers, and we use that in our show notes as well, where we would do, I'll make like a section called with my name, and I will collapse it. And then he knows he shouldn't open it because it's my notes.
Yeah, I love that. I hadn't even thought about that being spoiler prevention. That's amazing. Yes, collapsible content for the win. Beautiful.
So we're using that right now because it's nice. Because it's nice when you're recording podcasts to actually be surprised sometimes about stuff. You don't want to see everything up front. Yeah,
totally.
Get those live reactions.
Yes.
Then we've got the community section, which is earlier when I said those buttons, those tweets. All of the tweets that get sent to our account gets captured with a Zapier integration and gets pushed into this Coda doc. And then we can filter it by hashtag. So if we're running any kind of something like a new tag that we want to keep track of, we can come and add this to the list, and it'll automatically feed in the tweets over here and also do sentiment analysis on it with the Google Natural Language back. So we can just ignore the ones that are not not constructive.
Show me the good stuff. And then do you ever have like metrics like, oh, okay, we're going to be launching this new hashtag, we'd like to see this metric, and then kind of doing a calculation here at all? Or is it more just curiosity for you and the team?
No, at this point it's purely curiosity. Like as the podcast grows, obviously that's kind of stuff that you would like to add, but right now we're very chill about the podcast. It's like I said, passion project. We're having fun. That's what it's about.
There you go.
But if we ever needed that,
positive.
But that is the nice thing about Coda, is if you want to add that, you can add that. It's fairly trivial to add that kind of stuff. Add nice graphs, all kinds of things. Got a little sponsors section. Just has a list of all of the ads. We don't do ads anymore, really. We just, like I said, passion project.
Yeah.
But this is where we just keep general notes, notes on sponsors. A little hat tip if Coda doesn't want to sponsor us.
Hey, actually, you probably
and yeah, then there's the topic area. This is just where we come to add topics.
Got it.
More on this later as well.
Yes.
There's this is fresh topics that we haven't spoken about. This is a list of all topics. And then if you need to split out a bigger topic and have more notes on it, then we just create a page for it. And
Got
this
it.
page, you can just, there's a topic archive, and you can, when you're done with it, just drag it to the archive.
Cool.
That's kind of, this is a resources section, just high level. Each of the social medias that we have, that we keep information about it, whatever we want to keep about the stuff. We have a published checklist. This is Jacob's published, but it's an older version of Jacob's published checklist. But this has a nice feature where you can set up blocking tasks. So this is a blocking task, which means everything underneath cannot be checked until
cool.
this is checked.
Nice. How did you do that?
Good question.
It's always, we were chatting about this in our chat with Phil last week about like, oh, I actually don't remember how I made that. I just found how it worked, and now I don't have to think about it anymore.
That is the thing. There should be a formula. They completed, and here's formula columns. Which, I mean, that's a nice thing with Coda. You can kind of do the work, hide it away, and then later on, it's like, how did I do that? And you can come and copy it and use it in another doc again. It's all these little puzzle pieces. Lego constructions that you reuse. So this is just a filter, and this is the blocked logic. So just checks for contains of that checkbox, and then there's some conditional formatting and disabling of the button. So the rest of the logic would be in the button disable.
I love that. Usually I've always done like a lookup table to the table itself for creating dependencies, but this is actually a much more elegant solution as far as just, here's my list, these are the things that are required. That's really great. I'm going to definitely steal that for sure.
Just hide this again. Hide all of these.
It's kind of like when you have company over, you put the dirty laundry in the closet. Nobody will see.
So you can come and you can set any task to a blocking task, and anything below it will just be blocked until you check that off. This is a shout out to Jacob. I'm actually going to show you our current one, because this is Jacob's edit efficiency chart. This is how he keeps track of, let me just switch to a different episode. Let's get to that one. So how long it took him to edit the podcast and the duration of the final product. So he kind of calculates his efficiency over time.
Awesome. Yeah, you were saying quantified self. This is like a perfect example of, how can I understand how I'm doing? That's great.
So that's pretty cool. We just have a little expense tracker. That's actually something to do. Let me just go to this one. Just keep track of expenses, where the money goes. It's good to know. That's in rands, by the way, not dollars. So yeah, that's a nice tool. And we had that from the start, because it's nice to just know all that.
And is this from the InDoc template to just drag and drop the expense in?
It might actually be, because
familiar.
It could be. It depends when templates came out. If templates came out in 2019, then it could very likely be.
They did. Yes.
I think this is from the templates, which is very, very cool. And I really like the new Explore tab. With all of the nice nifty templates. There's a wealth of knowledge contained in this little sidebar over here. If you need to code, I definitely recommend checking out what's going on in here. It's amazing.
Cool.
These are just the templates. That's our archive section, pretty self-explanatory. The UI customization.
I love what you did here.
This is one of my favorite parts, probably most useless part, but favorite part of the doc.
Whatever makes you happy,
But over here you can configure the how the progress indicators need to look everywhere in the doc. So over in the published checklist, that should have updated now. So that's reading that now. go back to UI customization. I'll put it back to the kitties.
I was going to say the kitties are definitely a bit more fun. Yeah, Gareth is like CMS in Coda. Nice. I was going to say like your CMS background is showing here for sure.
Yeah, my CMS background is definitely a big influencer in a lot of stuff that I do.
Yeah.
And you can extend it. So you can come and add more emoji here, and it'll populate these drop downs.
Got it.
So you can actually build on this. So it's like it's a bit meta, but yeah.
Cool.
And this is for the task. This is
It makes
for
a big difference, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. This is for the task checkboxes. So that's
Got
for the for these.
Oh, for all the buttons. Yeah.
Yeah, for the buttons. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Extensive getting started guide. So like anything that I don't cover in here, like it's covered in here. Like there's everything, every section. I've got information on how to use it and how we use it, and how we thought about using it at the time.
So cool.
Guide on how to
outline over there. That's awesome.
Yeah, the outline's amazing. I love the outline.
Yeah.
One of the better features and like one of the best latest features in Coda. Like really.
It's one of those things, it's such a small, like in the grand scheme of thing, it feels like, oh yeah, just an outline, that's a small feature, but it ended up completely changing how I feel when I'm in docs, particularly ones where there's a lot of information, right? A lot of text. And I was like, this is way cooler than I even thought it was going to be. So I love it there, particularly for like a how-to area. Like I'm just trying to figure out the icons bit. You can go through really fast. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the coupled with the collapsible sections, it's amazing. It's really powerful. Like no more managing your own table of contents.
Yeah, no, I used to have a really great hack for doing it, and it's like, well, I can delete that community article. It doesn't matter anymore. Yeah.
This is a pretty detailed guide on how to set up the Twitter integration for Zapier. So if anyone, this is not just for this doc, like if anyone wants to know how to set up the thing that we did with Twitter, this is how you set it up, like screenshots and everything, guide on how to set that up.
Great.
And then I think we can segue here.
Yes, this was a secret project.
Yeah, so this was an idea that I had way back and I kept putting off, and eventually got around to doing this. So you'll see on my profile, on my Coda profile, there's a how to send shower thoughts to Coda using Siri shortcuts, which is this doc. So this will pretty much show you how to set up a Siri shortcut that you can trigger from your phone to capture data into Coda. So if anyone watching has an iOS device, you can actually open this, either download the Coda app on your phone, or get this link that Maria posted in chat, and open that, go to that iCloud link on your iOS device. Just a heads up, you might have to enable not developer mode. Coda Wizard is these allow untrusted sources if you haven't in Siri shortcut. I promise the Siri shortcut is not doing anything malicious. But the way that Siri shortcuts works is if you want to install shortcuts from external sources, then you need to allow that untrusted sources. So if you set up this shortcut and you actually use it, whatever you post will come into this table. And that API key is set up to have writes only to this table. So I'll leave that on. So after the fact, you can still come and try it out. I'll leave that little API key there for testing. But yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty nifty.
Can you talk a little bit about how, like why you built this, why you think it would be helpful for you, like how you imagine yourself using this for yourself? Because I think that's pretty.
Yeah. So basically the thought of this came with the topic ideas. I wanted a way to capture those fleeting topic ideas or anything that I want to talk about on the podcast. We've got a thing called Observation Corner that Jacob is very strict on sometimes. Um, and whenever I think of something that I need to remember to show, I want to quickly just capture that. So this series shortcut will allow me to have an icon either in my share widget or on my just on my home screen that I can click, and I can just capture that straight into Coda, which is pretty amazing.
That's so great. One thing that I think this reminds me of, someone at Coda, one of our designers, always loves to have like quotes or inspirational, things or ideas or articles. It's like, oh, I don't have time to read this, but I want to be reminded about it. I don't want it to just get lost in my brain. And he had created a doc where you push a button to add it. But I could see this being a really cool way of kind of taking all those things you want to remind yourself to do more of, and then also having like an automation to remind you that you've added it. Like, hey, you added this 30 days ago, or hey, here's, a couple things that are going on, that you can kind of combine those two things together.
Very cool.
Yeah, because I was just like, oh, I got to make sure I tell Steve Wan about this, because he's got this doc, and then you can add the series shortcut to make it even more powerful. Phil is a huge fan of this series shortcut, by the way, Daniel. So well done.
That's a really good idea of using the automation to resurface it again later. That's very cool. I mean, you can build an entire spaced repetition system using that.
I can see the wheels turning, like, oh, I
Okay, I'm gonna have to park that rabbit hole for later.
You have to pull out your thing, say like, "Hey, add automations to series shortcut."
If I have a spaced repetition doc in the near future, don't be surprised.
I will be so excited. I will be the first to like it and share it as well. Nice. Do you want to show your API generation doc, or is there anything else on this one that you want to show folks?
No, let me actually just check if I've got more notes here. That's pretty much it. The rest is, I think, that's just the data, the tables. This guy's style guides. Me being a programmer, I've set up style guides for what the prefixes are for things. This is actually just a good general tip when working with Coda, is prefixing your formulas with the F, prefixing your dropdowns with DDL or something select or whatever you use. It makes it easier when you're working with stuff. Something that I also do that's not on here is I prefix any internal things that I don't want to surface with an underscore. So I'll call the column name or something underscore does something, whatever it does, which is very useful. It's just one of those things that's variable naming conventions, which is very powerful.
Well, this is great, because I always, whenever I'm teaching people Coda, I always tell them the importance of naming your stuff, right? You don't want things to be called select 1, select 2, select 3. You're never going to be able to remember which is which. Same thing for your tables. And I always tell them, name something so you know what it is, have it be unique. But this is a really great way to even make that more efficient, right? That I know I'm looking for a table, so I start typing TBL, that automatically gives me a better set of lists, and then I also have more descriptive language around it. So this is, I love the rigor and the detail around this, because I think it allows you to, again, be more efficient, which is what we're always looking to do, is how do we take the extra thought cycles out of creation so we can be able to be relatively productive. Check out the podcast.
See what you did there. Yes, no, definitely. I think that pretty much covers everything for this doc. I think, I think I've just kind of general advice that I can give.
Yeah, that'd be great.
In terms of docs, is like start small and just explore stuff, and also create yourself in your doc section, like a labs or like a sandbox, or a I've got a sheet or a doc called Daniel's Laboratory, and Gareth's has one called Gareth's Playground. And it's just where we tinker on stuff and kind of try things and test things out, and it's very powerful, so kind of just start small, and then whenever you find yourself like thinking, I wonder if I can do this in Coda, like there's a good chance that it is possible. And if you can't figure it out, either go to the forums or like contact me. I'll get obsessed about it and try and figure it out.
Yeah, and actually, I think
Um,
that's one thing I'd be really curious about. You mentioned this idea of starting small. This
mm,
podcast doc, its first iteration, like the first
mm.
build, what did that have versus what it has now?
It basically just had the topics.
Hmm.
Uh, it had the topic ideas and the episode planning section,
Yeah,
uh, and a table, one table for episode data.
got it.
That was pretty much it. And then we just kind of added things as we went along.
I love that.
And the thing is, you're gonna do stuff in the beginning that's inefficient, but that's how you learn the limitations of Coda,
Hmm.
and also the power of Coda, where you thought that might be a limitation, but it's not. So kind of just experimenting and playing with it, and then yeah, just start, and because you'll find out later, you'll figure out later what works, and that will in your mind become your foundational architecture. And as long as you kind of stick to those principles, your foundational architecture principles, um, then you could just start small,
Yeah.
and then kind of build it out as you. I think when we did that maker festival, we put in a lot of stuff.
Mm.
Like a lot of stuff went in here. A lot of stuff that we've removed again since, because we're not using it.
Yeah.
Um, so you can get, but also during that we learned a lot. You know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, one thing I really like about what
it's not wasted effort if you learn
right.
something.
And one thing I like about what you just said is that, we added this thing, we ended up not using it, so we took it out. And that's part of getting better and better and better too. I love this. Gareth is like, yeah, as you learn, you get your head out of how Excel works and more figuring out the power of Coda and how it works. And we have
Yeah.
a really great question here from Diane. Good to see you, Diane. I'm really always glad to see you on these crowdcasts, which is, do you have a method to back up your planner? Like, is there any backup that you use here, supporting things in the background?
We just occasionally make a copy of the doc.
Got
Um,
it.
yeah, I mean, there's
Keep it
we don't have an automated system for it or anything. It's just I do that for most of my docs that have a lot of data. It's just I'll occasionally just make a backup,
simple.
and I'll tag it with a square brackets backup at the end, and that'll just go sit in a backup folder.
Cool. And one thing I will say is you had mentioned sometimes you've got your sandbox, or not your sandbox. Gareth has a playground and you have a laboratory.
Yeah,
But I will sometimes make a copy of a doc and use that to tinker. Like, oh, I'm thinking about adding this new automation flow, or I'm thinking about changing my structure. I'm just going to make a copy of it so I can mess with all the same data, but not worry about totally, having to go back in my version history or something like that. So that's
yeah,
another tip I would have there. Thanks for the
yeah.
question.
When we're building docs for clients, we actually use semantic versioning. So v0.0.1
Mhm.
in the file name, to version the specific versions. So
Sure.
it's almost like branching in code. So
Mhm.
if you've got a master branch, and then you branch off of that, and then you fix it, and at some point your master branch or your new branch will be a bit further along than your master branch, and then you'll just kind of fix it and then ditch that one, and that's your new. So we actually
Yeah.
use semantic versioning in the name to keep track of versions.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. we've got systems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think it's one of those things, like having a system is going to be the thing that really saves you, right? If you have a system for how we name things in our doc, how we work on things, the system is going to be able to catch you and support you and make it so that you don't have to spend extra brain cycles trying to remember, oh, how do we do that thing? Is this the right one? I always think about, like, what can I do to help my future self out? What is going to make my future self go, thank you, Past Maria, you did me a solid.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, we have another clarifying question here from Diane, which is, just to clarify, the backup is just another copy of the doc in Coda. Yes?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Diane,
And then yeah.
you could always print a PDF version of it if you wanted to just make sure you had the data even outside of Coda. That would be another option there too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What
Yes,
next, Daniel? What else do you want to show us?
I think let's so as I mentioned now, we do a lot of work for clients, a lot of Coda at work these days. And a lot of times we build backends in Coda, and then we build a front end on top of Coda as the backend. So there'll be a public facing front end which users can interact with, that uses the Coda API to then interact with the backend. Sometimes we do the front end ourselves. Sometimes there's a third party that implements the front end. So what we did is we built, let me just get the correct one open here. We built a way for us to generate API documentation from Coda docs. So how this works is this is a little throwaway API key, and then I will. I think this went to sleep again now.
Poor sleepy. I guess it is evening where you are, so it's taking a little evening nap.
I need to I just need to prep things here. There's a little embedded while it's loading. I can tell you a little bit about it. So the section over here is embedded that uses the Coda embed formula to embed a Node.js server running on Glitch. So if that'll wake up at some point.
I can attest this was awake when we were just talking with our dogs beforehand.
Sometimes Coda does that. You have to block it and allow it again. Oh, I did pray to the demo gods. I did.
Well,
I did.
Sometimes
like I always do.
They are just like, this time we are teaching you humility.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Okay, it's not playing along, which is very unfortunate. But let's give that some time to wake up. I don't need that to actually show you what it does. Let me try that one more time. Oh. I literally demoed this to you right before the call.
Exactly. 37 minutes ago, I saw it and was moving and eyeing.
Let's try the good old force refresh.
Yes. Do a little magic fingers.
In fact, it might be just something that's cached. Let me just close that and open again. But while that's loading, basically what it is in that little embed, I can actually show it over here, what it does, what it looks like. Unless Glitch is having problems, that could very well be.
Glitch is glitching.
Glitch is glitching. Glitch is obviously it's just for it's like an online IDE that you can use to try stuff. So obviously they does say my app is up and running, but clearly it's not. So it seems like it's not Coda's fault, it's Glitch's fault. But let's just try and reload this one more time. Basically what that does is loads a little iframe UI that you can copy an API key into. It queries the Coda API, brings back a drop-down list of all of your docs that API key has access to. You can select the doc, and then it has a generate API documentation button that you can click. Then what it does, it goes and checks the table structures, table and columns for all of those tables in that doc that you specified, pulls that information into this doc, into tables and columns, and then generates this table for you. And then you can set up what the rules are for each of your table as if it's an API. So you can say for this table options, I am allowing get on all of these fields. I'm not allowing post. This is a view. which I only want to, sorry, this is, well, and I'm only allowing them to post to this. This is, sorry, it's also a table.
And this is from your shower thoughts doc, the Siri shortcut doc that we were looking at just a moment ago.
Right.
Yeah?
This would be the API documentation for my Siri shortcuts doc. Yeah. If it needed. Oh, it loaded. Here we go.
Yay!
glitch woke up. So basically, you paste that in. It goes off the glitch. Queries the. It is a tad bit slow. But that should be querying glitch right now. While that's thinking, you come and you set up your rules for that API. And you can come here to the API documentation. Now you'll also see, actually, I didn't show that now because I didn't get the new data in. But if I were to take post off of this one and I go to the API documentation, it'll remove that table. So now that table is not in the API docs anymore. And if I go back and I'll say, okay, you're allowed to post to this table, then it gets added back. So you'll see it over there now.
Cool.
And what it does, it tells you for each one of the columns in the table, what is the name, the description. This is actually something that you can type in. So this is actually you'll write documentation here for whoever you're sending this this doc to at the end. And you can describe what the table does. It shows you the Coda API endpoints, shows you the JSON request body, shows you the response you'll be getting. For this table, it'll tell you you're not allowed to request do post requests to this table. So you can only do gets. It will show you if each field is a calculated field or not, whether it's an array or not. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So the idea being then after we've set this all up, we'll create a doc on the client side or on the implementation partner side, where we cross-doc this view to. And then that cross-doc version doesn't have access to any of these other configurations. They'll only see the stuff that we configured in Configure API.
Yeah.
So that's a little nifty API documentation generator.
Like you've got the core of this has got all of the information about the things that we built. Now we need to distribute this out to the different parties. But of course, we don't want them to see all of the API documentation for everything we've built. So we'll just push their apps information out to their own special Coda doc. So you kind of have a hub and spokes outline there, which is great.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. Jean-Pierre's like, this is like DocMap 2. Yes.
I actually haven't seen DocMap 2. I'm going to go check that out.
Excellent.
Okay, cool. Is it also a Coda doc?
Oh, DocMap is just if you go into I believe it's under the settings now, little gear menu in the upper right.
Oh, sorry, the actual built-in Coda doc menu. Okay, this DocMap
2, you've made it better. So
gotcha. Okay.
Right. So perfect. Anything else about this documentation doc? I love that. This doc that you made.
It's very meta.
How you use it, kind of how you thought about it.
I mean, this came about for specifically when we're working with third-party implementation partners, where we are not the ones doing the front end. And we carry all of the knowledge of how the backend works, but the person that's going to use the API, they don't necessarily do. So this is a way for us to efficiently communicate without needing to have like 5 3-hour calls to discuss everything. We can hand this over to them, and instead of just pointing them to the Coda documentation, the Coda API documentation, we can actually give this as almost like a augment on top of that, because obviously this doesn't cover everything. There's still like authentication and that kind of stuff you have to go to the actual official docs for. So this is not supposed to replace the Coda API documentation. It's just additional, some embellishment.
Yeah, and very like specified for what you've made, right? That you're
Yeah,
removing the need for your clients to go, all right, so this is what the Coda API documentation says. That means that here we've got this table. You can say this is exactly what this part is
right,
doing, and this is how it's operating under the hood, which I think is
right.
really, really creative.
And
That I just this.
yeah, and the ability to say that even though this key field, for instance, is here,
Mhm.
you're not allowed to work with it, right?
Yeah.
So that'll right, it'll show them, it'll remove it here, so they'll know. Okay,
Hmm.
sorry, am I on the right one? That is table option. Sorry.
Yeah.
So even though it's still over there, it'll be removed in the that's still there. Okay. Oh, it'll show. Sorry, it shows you like even though it's there, don't use it
Yep.
because on the crosstalk this becomes a formula field.
Mm.
So when you crosstalk it, this isn't clickable, so they can't edit everything. And we just
Mhm.
say like for this row, you're allowed to edit it or not. I mean, I could go as far to actually remove this on the embedded side. So the crosstalk side, you can set up, because after you crosstalk it, you can apply additional filters.
Right.
So then you can also filter out on this table, okay, sure, don't show anything that is not checked with allow get.
Yeah.
So it's very, very specialized documentation. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Hmm.
And then as far as building this one out, were there any kind of redos or missteps that you took? Like, oh, turns out that doesn't work the way I wanted it to, and kind of the new solution? Or was it pretty much like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do, and you were able to kind of go through?
Yeah, I think because we've done a few integrations without it, we had like a wish list.
Yeah.
We had a doc where we just kept making notes, right? That's
Mhm.
also something where you have an idea, just go make a doc for it, right? Even though you don't plan on implementing it right away, and then have that doc as the knowledge base where you just go put those notes, right? And just kind of have those ideas ferment there, I guess.
Totally.
And then when it gets to the time where you actually need to build it out, you've got like a list of all of the features that you want to implement, and then
Mhm.
you can make that highlight it all, make it a checkbox list, and you can
Yep.
go check off, right, okay, this is needed for MVP, and then you can just kind of crack those out. Um, but this did win. This did go through one or two iterations,
Yeah.
but it seems like I'm gonna have to find something else to use because glitch. Hey, it's working.
Now it just
Finally, glitch
to
woke
take
up.
humility there first. And like, okay, now see how much you need me.
So this will actually show it. I'm actually not going to click it because this is going to pull up all of my docs. But that's a drop down of all of my docs. And if I now click generate API documentation, that actually sends a web request off to this glitch cloud server. I guess
Yeah.
it's like a function. And you'll see now it pulled in 4 additional views that weren't in here before.
Nice.
And now I can also allow, okay, cool. We also allow gets on these two and go to the API documentation, and they will be added here now as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's
It's so
pretty much how that
like
works.
I would never think to do as far as like a use case. I was like, oh, but it actually works really, really well. That anytime you want to be pulling in information from somewhere else, you just add that with a control to filter that information and then pop it out into a list, which is just like
Yeah.
super
No, views are very powerful if you use them correctly.
awesome. Mhm.
Yeah. Especially because they also don't duplicate rows. So they
Yeah.
don't count to additional row count.
Mhm.
So views are good.
Yes, I totally agree. Personally, I used to be the type of person who would do table and then different views and different pages, but now I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, it saves me clicks to just have a drop down control and filter that one main table. Just I don't have to move around, go to a bunch of different places. I can just kind of go back and forth between my thoughts. Particularly now that controls are a lot easier to add filters to, it's just kind of
Yeah.
one click instead of a bunch of formulaic work that you need to do, which is something I personally appreciate.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other advice that you would give to folks who are getting started or wanting to build like a big master planner like this or some documentation like this? Any wise words of wisdom?
Start small. Like
There's
my same advice from earlier. Just tinker and follow wherever um, wherever your interest goes. Like just if you think, I wonder if I can do this in Coda, give it a go. Like actually take some time, put some time out to actually try and build it in Coda, because the chances are you'll get something. And the community is great.
Yes.
It's just a wealth of information there. There's some really, really great makers on the forum. Yeah, it's just I kind of just build those little useless things like the UI customization, which I think of now as useless, but it sparks joy, and it's a great learning tool. Like even though most docs these days that I built don't have it, like it's really, really fun to add that in smaller docs where you know you're not going to hit the top limits of that doc. If it's not about efficiency, then you can afford to put in those little nice to haves. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like about what you're saying is like once you find something that you made that you like, you can then reuse it anywhere else, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody will find that you'll start to develop your own kind of personal patterns for how you like to do Coda, for how you do it. And then you'll notice,
Yeah.
oh, I always add this kind of thing. Like you'll know that it's a doc that I made because it's always going to have a bunch of buttons and it's always going to have like a really funny cover images. That's just like how I like to do it. And you're always going to find controls that are filtering. Like those
Yeah.
are things that are in every single doc that I make, just because that's how I like to do it. And that's how I found my way. And that you can kind of think about everything that's in your docs as a little puzzle piece that you could use anywhere else. Even if it is like a silly thing, if it makes you happy, you know, we all could use a little more happiness in our life, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, if you really want to get deep into Coda, build a doc and try to hit the API limit. That'll teach you a lot. Like try to hit the doc limit where it cuts off the API connection, like the API access, because that's like you learn a lot, because then you think about performance, efficiency. Okay, how much does column formulas count towards doc limits? How much does rows counts towards doc limits, and all that kind of stuff. And that's when it gets really fun.
And also knowing, you were talking about the first time you build something, it will probably be inefficient. And understanding like where does it get inefficient? Where is it
Yeah.
dragging itself down and then getting better? And then the next time you build, you're like, oh, that's right. I'm going to use this new pattern that I found. Yeah. And also,
And
I would
that's
say push
yeah.
us. We want to be pushed to make things continually better. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean also that's something that's true for any tool, right?
Right. Hmm.
Every tool out there has limits,
Hmm.
and you need to work within those limits. So constraints, we talked
Yes.
about constraints earlier, the power of constraints, and yeah,
Hmm.
it's where
Yeah. We had a
creativity comes from.
big chat about no code while we were waiting to go live. And one of the things we were talking about is that the interesting thing about the no code movement is that if you're programming, it's a blank slate. You can build anything. It just takes time to really think about it and understand how you want to build it. It'll just take time. But with no code, there's always going to be some kind of constraint on what's available, which then allows you to have a different kind of creativity of working inside of that, which I was like, oh, that's right. And then we chatted about the TED Talk, Creative Constraints. So definitely check it out if you're looking for a little bit of that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
very, very cool. Yeah, I think that is mostly that's the three main docs I wanted to get through.
Plenty of brilliance today. Daniel, anything that you want to, since you've been so generous with your time, anything that you want to plug or share with the folks about where they can learn more about you, what you're doing, your projects?
Well, check out the podcast.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's just a conversation between me and Jacob, and we enjoy it, and we put a lot of effort into it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We talk about Coda a lot, actually, on the podcast. And then we also have we have a Slack channel as well. You'll see it in the podcast. In the show notes, we have a Slack channel as well for listeners of the podcast, and we also have a Reddit where you can come and discuss episodes. Then I just want to also give a shout out to Jacob's website. So you can, if you want to follow Jacob specifically, you can go check out what he's up to on his blog and his GitHub and his LinkedIn and everything.
I like the minimalist here. We saw his minimalist notes and we see his minimalist website. That's awesome.
He is the minimalist. He writes some really fancy, nice blog posts as well.
Nice.
I've got dark mode enabled. He will slap me if he sees I'm using dark mode. You can see what I'm up to here on my website. It's just danielvandermerwe.com. Links to all my things. Then I mentioned Rocket 200 earlier, which is my company. So also just want to mention that we are launching Ignite as part of this will be like a division of our company that focuses purely on low code solutions. So you can go check out ignite.rocket200.co. That's Rocket ROKK. Links will be posted everywhere. Just a little overview of the tools that we work with, and you can come and schedule a session here with us if you want to dig into Coda or any other no code, low code tools for that matter. And if you guys want to work with us, yeah.
Fabulous. And we'll be posting all of those links over there into chat. So you can go ahead and snag those as well as in the webinar recaps as well. Excellent. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your time, your brilliance, your attention to detail, and your creativity with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know I have thoroughly enjoyed every time we get to talk about Coda or dogs or anything else. It's always a pleasure. I hope that everybody found a few things you can start to work with right away. And remember, you can always head to the Coda gallery and see Daniel's profile and see all of the great docs that he's building, probably an automated Siri one in the future as well. So keep an eye on it. And thanks so much for joining us. If you ever need any help, let us know. Daniel, have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your night. And everybody else, enjoy your week. We'll see you next time. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye.